So my name is Yuxin. Today, Shan-Yuan and I are going to talk about this idea of wearable microphone jamming. And this is on behalf of our colleagues, Huiying, Steven, Zhijing, and our advisors, Pedro, Ben, and Heather at the University of Chicago. And this idea is about using a wearable to disable microphones in its user surroundings so that these microphones cannot secretly listen to the user. And I want to show you directly what I'm talking about.
So, how does it work?
I can tell you how it works, but it's confidential.
So these two people are having some private conversation, and to protect their privacy, she is going to turn on the privacy bracelet. So as a result, the camera only recorded this strong white noise. And this noise is so loud that it disables the microphone's ability to do any useful recording. And besides the camera, other microphones in this scene are jammed as well, like his smartphone, his smartwatch, and this voice assistant. And let me play the rest of the video, and as you will see, they are still having normal conversation. And this is because this noise is something that somehow only the microphones can hear, but not humans. So why do we need a microphone jammer? Today, microphones are everywhere, like the voice assistant right here. They are also in your kitchen. They are even in your car. But unfortunately, these microphone-based devices are not secure and can be easily attacked. Here is an example discovered by a previous study. So this user is talking to the voice assistant, and the top left corner shows the attacker's screen.
Alexa, stop. Relationship. Goodbye. I will vote Democrats.
Yeah, so remember the user explicitly said stop the interaction. However, the information after the command was still captured. And this is just one basic attack. There are several more advanced attacks out there, where the attacker can get the highest permission of your smart devices and continuously eavesdrop in the background. So how can we protect ourselves against such privacy threat? One promising way that researchers have been looking at is to jam microphones. A simple idea is to blast super loud noise into the room to cover human voice, like this white noise generator. But this is not effective because it also disrupts human normal conversation. So recently, Roy and his colleagues found a new way to jam microphones. They use inaudible ultrasound instead of audible noise. And let me tell you how it works. So microphones are designed to only record sounds that human can hear, and ideally, ultrasound should not be captured. But in fact, when ultrasound passes through the microphone, it automatically gets shifted and leaks to the low frequency range. And this is caused by hardware defect of microphone. So our microphones consist of 4 parts. So the diaphragm converts sound vibration into electrical signal, and then the amplifier amplifies the signal power. And the signal typically contains many more frequency than the sampling systems can handle. So we need to add a low pass filter. And the final output signal from the low pass filter is sampled by the analog to digital converter. Now let's focus on the amplifier. So the input-output relation of an amplifier can be modeled by a straight line, or this equation, which means output signal is just the input signal multiplied by a constant gain. However, this linear equation is only true in the low frequency range. And if the same amplifier is fed with a high frequency input, the relation becomes nonlinear, as shown by the curve and the quadratic term in the equation. And this quadratic term can create new frequency components when the input signal contains more than 2 frequencies. So as you can see here, say the input signal contains 2 frequency components, F1 and F2, and from trigonometry, the quadratic term will result in a signal with 4 frequency components. And the last one, F1 minus F2, is what we are interested in because it's in the low frequency range. And this nonlinearity is fundamental to all amplifiers. More expensive amplifiers may have larger linear range, but they still have this nonlinearity above some frequency. And besides the amplifier, Zhang and his colleagues found the diaphragm also has nonlinearity. So with this nonlinearity, we can send ultrasound to cover human voice without interrupting normal conversation. And you can even buy these devices on the market. They work well. Microphones close to these jammers can be jammed, but they share 3 limitations. The first one is that they are all stationary devices, so they do not go with user. And the second one is that they have limited angular coverage. You need to point them to the target microphone to jam. If you don't know where the microphone is, then the jammers will not work. And even you know where the microphone is, your primary task as an user is not doing whatever you are doing, such as having a conversation. Your primary task is now looking at things and points your jammer to the target microphones and keep pointing. And another thing makes this even harder is that jamming coverage is not evenly distributed. There are some blind spots where the jamming signal is so weak, like the white spot right here. And this is because these ultrasonic jammers are relying on multiple transducers to increase power and coverage. So signals from different speakers can destructively interfere each other at some locations and create blind spots. This means you need to point it fairly precisely, otherwise you are going to point it to the blind spots and the jammer will not work. So we tackle this by turning ultrasonic jammer into a wearable jammer. And let me show you how this solves all the problems I just mentioned. So first of all, it's a wearable, so it moves with the user and it protects the user surroundings. And we use a ring layout and place ultrasonic speakers all around. This design effectively enables multi-directional jamming. We ran a simulation to see how these jammers work. This figure shows the jamming power of a 90-degree area. And the jammer is placed in the bottom left corner and pointed to the top. Blue means weak jamming and yellow means strong jamming. As you can see here, the panel layout has limited coverage. It mostly jams in the front, and it has several blind spots. For our ring layout, the jammer covers all directions, but there are still blind spots. And we found that adding small motion to the jammer can blur out these blind spots. And by building wearable jammer, we can leverage natural hand gestures to reduce blind spots. And we also ran a simulation to confirm our findings. Now I will let Shan-Yuan to take over and tell you how we implemented this wearable jammer.
Hi, I'm Shan-Yuan Teng. Let me show you the real device here. So we designed our wearable jammer in a bracelet form, replace all the ultrasonic transducers in a ring layout to cover a wide range. Inside this casing, you can see we use a microcontroller and connect it to a signal generator where we program to generate changing sine waves that centered around the resonant frequency of the transducers. That is 25 kilohertz. And then we switch between 24 to 26 kilohertz in a random manner to create the noise. And they are all in human inaudible range. And then the signal is amplified to 10 volts peak to peak, then fed into the transducers. All the circuits and the transducers are powered using a lithium battery, and that supports 4 hours of continuous usage. So now, if I turn this on, this jammer will produce a ultrasound that the microphone of my laptop that is recording me will consider it as noise, but because it is ultrasound, that I will not hear it. So let me try turn this on. Now you should hear me again. So that was the response of the microphone, that the noise is so loud, covering all my human voice. Okay. So as our goal is to empower users, we put all our implementation details on GitHub for anyone to download, modify, and make their own jammer. Those includes our simulation code, hardware files like models for 3D printing, and the code. We're very happy to see people actually implemented their own jammer and shared with everyone, like this one. Also, this one inspired me of the idea of a jamming necklace. And the next one is a very tiny jammer that's fully standalone with a battery. We're also excited to see the New York Times cover the story about our work and other privacy-defending technologies, raising the awareness of such issues. This image shows another prototype we made during the research process. The article describes our jammer very well, saying it is like an anti-smartwatch, both in its cyberpunk aesthetic and its purpose of defeating technology. Let me tell you how we evaluate our prototype through technical evaluations and a user study. This experiment is to understand how well our prototype jams state-of-the-art speech recognizer. We place an audio speaker near our prototype and play back human speech from a large corpus. To approximate hand movements, we put our prototype on a motion platform that slightly rotates and let it jam continuously. Then we recorded the audio using the smartphone that was put 1 meter away. We piped the audio to a state-of-the-art machine learning speech recognizer, which is IBM Cloud that we used, and see how much text is being able to identify. We moved our smartphone around the jammer to measure the jamming coverage every 5 degrees from the front to the rear. Then we ran the same experiments with i4, existing commercial product, and the planar layout, which we find in the literature. Here's a result of our wearable jammer. The x-axis is the difference angles we measured, and the y-axis is the word error rate that we found by comparing the speech recognition results and the corpus script. This shows how many words are being recognized incorrectly. The higher, the better jamming performance. We see our wearable jammer jammed pretty well in all the angles. Here is an example of the data. This is the original audio corpus we played and the script. And this is the recorded audio without jamming. You see only the first 2 words can be recognized. This might be due to the results of the microphone being at a blind spot. However, the blind spot moved away quickly because of the small movements of our prototype. The remaining words are either being recognized as wrong words, or the recognizer just completely missed it. As a result, the overall word error rate is high. The gray line is the jamming results of i4, the commercial product. It shows the jamming coverage is very limited, mostly at the front where it is pointing to. And also, there's a clear blind spot in its coverage, where much less words are jammed. The planar layout, shown in this black line, also has similar trends, with limited coverage and a blind spot. Compared to the other 2 jammers, our wearable prototype has wide coverage and similarly well jamming performance, which was achieved by the ring layout that enlarged the coverage and the small movements that mitigated the blind spots. In our daily life, there might be some scenarios where microphones are being covered, such as here. The phone is in a pocket, or the microphones can be even somehow being covered by an attacker to eavesdrop on conversations. For the second experiment, we're curious how well is the jamming of our prototype under the covering of everyday materials. In other words, we like to see how ultrasound propagates through materials. We tested several materials covering the smartphone microphone and used the same setup as previous experiments to measure jamming performance, with a no blockage condition as the baseline. Here's the results of the jamming. The gray bar shows the word error rates without our prototype jammer turning on, and the blue bars show when the jammer is on. We see plastic box and cardboard affect the effectiveness the most, meaning ultrasound does not penetrate these materials well. We also see by covering these materials, audible sound also being affected and slightly more difficult to recognize. For thinner or looser materials such as cloth and foam, our prototype remains similar jamming performance. These experiments give us insights into how materials affect the jamming performance. Using different frequencies and powers may mitigate the effect, but it requires further experiments. In these previous experiments, we were controlling all the environment's variables. The corpus is scripted, and there are no real users. We decided to invite users to use our prototype. We wanted to understand whether wearing our jamming bracelet impacts one's feeling of privacy in a natural setting. The participants who were recruited were to ask to have free-form conversations, which were not scripts. They exchanged the bracelets in a conversation while the phones on the table were recording. After the conversation, participants were given transcripts, which were generated using speech recognition from the phone's recording. We find that the participants feel our bracelets protected their privacy, rating an average of 5.4 out of 7. We also interviewed the participants. Some say that the bracelets was noticeable, but they forgot about it or stopped feeling odd about wearing it once they focused on the conversation. Some felt more protected either when wearing the bracelets or by simply seeing others wearing it. I'll let Yuxin to wrap up this project.
So to summarize the wearable jammer, we design, implement, and use a wearable ultrasonic jammer to protect us all around against eavesdropping microphones. And the jammer has full angular coverage and minimizes blind spots. So our wearable jammer provides users a practical and effective tool to protect their privacy. And we believe this is a great start point, and it also opens new directions for more researchers, including understanding its influence to animals, testing on more microphones, increasing its vertical coverage, and building this jammer in other form factors, such as embedded in jewelry or accessories. And another interesting direction is to give users more agency. For example, when we use the microphone jammer, currently it jams all microphones. Can we build a reconfigurable jammer that jams all the other microphones except the one the user trusts? So, given more and more smart devices are deployed, we wonder, besides microphones, whether other attacks can happen. And we actually found that Wi-Fi signals transmitted by these devices can cause privacy issues. And let me give you a preview. So today, as I just mentioned, more and more smart devices are filling our indoor space, and each room has multiple devices. And more importantly, many smart devices are connected wirelessly, and smart devices are regularly transmitting Wi-Fi signals, as shown in many existing studies. So based on these two facts, we built what we call silent reconnaissance attack. So by just listening to Wi-Fi signals transmitted by smart devices, attackers can actually turn our smart devices into adversarial motion sensors and check human motion behind a wall. In this attack, the only thing the attacker needs to do is to put a Wi-Fi sniffer near the target area, and the attacker does not need to have physical access inside the target area or hack any device or network. And the sniffer does not transmit anything. It just passively listens to the Wi-Fi signals. So the smart devices inside the target area work as normal. They regularly transmit Wi-Fi signals, and these signals will go past the wall. And as human inside moves around, the sniffer can continuously track the human. The attacker achieves this by just analyzing the sniffed Wi-Fi signals. So this reconnaissance attack can cause real-world damage. Like in this case, if the attacker knows whether there are people inside and know their location, they can gain access to the server room, steal hard drives, and then the attacker will have all the private data. And this attack leverages the fact that our environment is constantly filled with ambient Wi-Fi signals. These signals can be captured by sniffer behind the wall and be used to infer our status. So when people inside moves around, the human body also changes how these ambient signals propagate in the environment. So by monitoring such changes, the attacker can infer if there is a human inside or not. And furthermore, when people inside moves near a smart device, like in this case, she is moving near the smart light, so her body appears to be larger, blocks or reflects more signals from the smart light. So this will create large fluctuation as shown by the red line here. And when she moves at a region far from the smart light, her body appears to be smaller and create less fluctuation of the smart light signal. So this sniffer can monitor these changes of each smart device and use them to infer the human location. And ideally, if one of the smart devices has large signal fluctuation, then this indicates there is a human moving around that device. So we implemented our attack using today's Android smartphones, and we tested upon 11 different places with different floor plans covering 31 Wi-Fi devices. So together we collected 41 hours of data and nearly 8 hours with human moving inside the target area. So to evaluate, we considered two metrics: human detection rate and false alarm rate. So human detection rate means when there is a human actually present, how likely the sniffer reports a human. And false alarm rate represents when the sniffer reports there is a human, how likely there is actually no human presence. So ideally, the attacker wants to have high detection rate and low false alarm rate. So when there are 4 smart devices in each room, our attack achieves over 99% human detection rate and just about 10% false alarm rate. And even when there is only 1 device in each room, the detection rate is over 80%. And to defend against this attack, we built an access point-based obfuscation. So the access point will send cover traffic for each smart device using its MAC address. So before defense, sniffer only receives signal from the smart device. And with our defense, sniffer receives packets with the same MAC address from both smart device and access point. So the attacker can no longer tell where the smart device is. And on top of this, we let AP randomly change its transmission power over time. And this is to confuse the attacker by manually creating a signal fluctuation, and that the attacker thinks there is a human constantly moving around. And we implement our defense on a laptop. We use the laptop as an AP and run Python scripts to insert the cover packets. And because the laptop doesn't support randomizing transmission power, so we emulated it afterwards. So with our defense, the human detection rate drops by half, and the false alarm rate increased by 5 times. So this shows our defense is very effective, and it's practical because we only need to make changes to our access point and don't need to change the other smart devices. So to summarize this Wi-Fi sniffer project, we identified a new privacy risk caused by the wide deployment of smart devices. So an attacker can analyze Wi-Fi signal to check human motion behind a wall. And we also developed a practical and effective defense against such attack. And let me recap the entire talk. So today, we mostly talk about the introduction of new types of smart devices spread security challenges everywhere, either because these devices have mice or because they have Wi-Fi. And in this talk, we focused mostly on the first challenge, but gave you a preview of our exploration for Wi-Fi. And as we are surrounded by smart devices all the time, we need to identify more privacy risks raised by these devices and build effective and practical tools to defend against them. And I want to thank our collaborators and our advisors. And thank you. And you can refer to our Jammer project web page for code circuits and etc. and build your own Jammer. And you can also go to our lab websites for more information about these two projects and also more information about us. And we are happy to take questions.